Welcome to Civic Warriors, brought to you by Witham. On this podcast, we bring the conversation to you, sharing engaging stories that motivate and build consensus in the nonprofit community. This podcast is about the innovators, the leaders on the front lines of adversity, guiding lights in the nonprofit industry affecting change. And through their stories, we can all join forces to become Civic Warriors. Hey, Warriors. Welcome to today's episode of Civic Warriors, brought to you by Witham. I'm your host, Brad Caruso, leader of Witham's not-for-profit practice. Today's guest is Ann Gray, president and CEO of Make-A-Wish Orange County in the Inland Empire, a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. You know, a wish experience can be a game changer for a child with a critical illness. This one belief guides them in everything they do at Make-A-Wish. It inspires them to grant life-changing wishes for children going through so much. It compels them to be creative in exceeding the expectations of every wish kid. It drives them to make their donated resources go as far as possible. Most of all, it's the founding principle of their vision to grant the wish to every eligible child. Together, they create life-changing wishes for children with critical illnesses. And wishes are more than just a nice thing. They are far more than gifts or singular events in time. Wishes impact everyone involved. The wish kids, volunteers, donors, sponsors, medical professionals, communities, families. For wish kids, just the act of making their wish come true can give them the courage to comply with their medical treatments. Parents may finally feel like they can be optimistic, and still others might realize all they have to do is offer the world through volunteer work and philanthropy. So with all that said, just a little introduction about Make-A-Wish as a whole, but Ann, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, really excited to talk about this. This is our first episode with a Make-A-Wish, and really excited to cover a couple topics today. So I always like to start out and just from your perspective, maybe share a little bit about your background, how you got involved at Make-A-Wish, and what connects you to their mission.
Great. Thank you so much. I started in the nonprofit field, believe it or not, right out of college. And my very first fundraising job was with Muscular Dystrophy Association way back. And one of my first experiences in visiting one of the families was a little boy named David, and he said, Ann, come back to my office. And he was in a wheelchair, and I followed him in his house back to his office, and he had a desk and an Apple computer and a little placard that said CEO of Wish Kids. And I thought, that's just awesome, because this little boy back then with muscular dystrophy, you did not really see your late teens at that time because the medical research wasn't as advanced as today. And I thought, what a beautiful thing that Make-A-Wish has done. And that's really carried me through my whole career, and just, you know, how much of an impact each wish makes. And so at this point in my career, after working in medical research for a very long time, and then some work with older adults and getting my MBA along the way, it was just really a full circle moment to come to Make-A-Wish a year and a half ago and be part of the mission.
Love that. Yeah, it's certainly a special place, which we're going to get into. Talking a little bit about Make-A-Wish itself, you know, how and why was Make-A-Wish founded originally?
So Make-A-Wish was founded in 1980. We are celebrating our 45th year of granting wishes. And it was really inspired by a little boy named Chris Gracious. He was 7 years old, battling leukemia. And he really wanted to be a police officer. And his mom, Linda, was a single mom and had her poker friends and a bunch of buddies that really wanted to do something special for Chris because he was declining. And so they made his wish come true to become a police officer. And he rode in a helicopter. He got a uniform. They swore him in. They let him do an arrest, a fake arrest. And, just a really sweet day. And sadly, Chris passed away shortly after that wish was granted, but it really inspired the community to do more and grant more wishes and make that life-changing memory for a family during a very difficult time. And so that's how Make-A-Wish was founded. Chris's wish was really the catalyst for the organization and what it is today.
Yeah, that's incredible. And especially when organizations you hear about, the why from the beginning, and realize how true that is as of today, just on a much grander scale. But I think that's what everybody, looks for in the not-for-profit industry and in a not-for-profit itself, in an organization that has a mission that maintains true to that mission. And yeah, of course, if it clearly you had to, give him that experience too, because that is a life-changing experience for Chris, obviously, at that time.
And a fun fact is the very first official Make-A-Wish once it became a 501c3 was actually here in Orange County, California at Disneyland.
Oh, no way.
Boy from Arizona, his wish was to go to Disneyland.
Okay.
And so that was the very first official wish.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disneyland's, I imagine that's a magical place to go. When you think about Make-A-Wish, so, you just mentioned it just now, but there obviously are local chapters. It's a national organization. How does all that interact together as you're serving a local region and then you have a national Make-A-Wish? How does that work when you consider the structure of Make-A-Wish?
Yeah. So Make-A-Wish is a federated model for people, familiar with that model. We have a national organization that all 57 U.S. chapters are underneath, and we are all 57 chapters are individual 501c3s. And we look to Make-A-Wish America for guidance on branding and wish consistency. And some of our high level, celebrity wishes are all coordinated through our Make-A-Wish America component of Make-A-Wish, so that there's very good wish equity across the country, that our contacts and partners have, a main point of contact for those high level wishes, whether it's the Super Bowl or meeting a celebrity or an influencer, which I guess is the same thing now. but they really help us with consistent branding guidelines for wishes. Some of our very complex medical wishes, we elevate it to their medical team at Make-A-Wish America. So they're an extremely valuable resource to help all of the 57 chapters around the country do the best possible work to grant those wishes. And we're a global organization as well. We have affiliates in other countries. But our local chapters, as I said, we're our own 501c3. We have our own fiduciary boards. The funds we raise go to local wishes for our local community. And I think that's one of the things that makes Make-A-Wish so special, is that our chapters are nimble and able to really be responsive to the needs of our community in a very caring and relational type of experience for the families, because we can make decisions quickly and make them in the best interest of the children based on our individual circumstances in our communities.
Yeah, certainly it's a really strong model when it comes to, you have a national level resource, but you also maintain the local understanding of what people care about locally, about raising resources locally, about being able to react on a local level, as opposed to sometimes at the national level is a little more challenging. So yeah, no, it definitely sounds like a model that is tried and true and works, and obviously meets its end goal, which is to grant wishes and to be there for individuals. One of the things I want to talk a lot about today and kind of dive into just in getting to know the organization better and really just hear from you. I want to talk a little bit about some of the wishes. What are some of your favorite wishes that you've heard in your travels?
We can talk a lot about the wishes.
I'm sure we can. Yeah. But this is what you do. This is what I want to talk about.
Yeah,
it's great.
A wish is such a beautiful, happy thing when it happens. And so they're all my favorite for just what a wish brings. But some of the real standouts are, we have pictures all over our office of actual wishes that have happened, some before my time and some while I've been here. But one of the very special wishes is a little boy that is on one of the pictures in our office, and he's 3 years old, and his wish was to ride a tractor. And the look on his face to ride a tractor was priceless. And that wish probably didn't cost us a lot of money. But that moment, so that one's really heartfelt. We've had wishes where one of our really special wish alumni who I've had a chance to meet, he, a lot of times when wish kids are sick, they're gaming and they're on video games, and that's kind of their social connection, is who they meet through these, gaming portals, because they have to be isolated if they're immunocompromised or something like that. And one of our wish kids, when he was done with treatment, he really wanted to go meet the creators of his favorite video game at Blizzard and thank them for creating that opportunity for him not to feel so isolated. So that was really cool. And you got to meet, the engineers and learn how it was created, and they got his input of how to make games better. It was a really cool thing. And he's since become one of our Wish alumni ambassadors, and he tells his story about his wish experience, and it really inspired him to want to help other people. So our chapter actually this past year wrote him a letter of recommendation for the law school that he ended up getting into for their excellent pro bono law program. So
oh my gosh, I love
kind
that.
of full circle for that. Another favorite wish is a young boy who wanted to be a pilot for the day. And he got to do that with one of our partners at Southwest Airlines. And they made his day really special. And now he's in flight school learning to be a pilot. So some of the favorite wishes for me are really that lasting impact of a wish. We've had some really sweet wishes for puppies and play sets, and a little nonverbal girl loved to be outside, and her family's backyard wasn't really conducive to that. And so we were able to totally re-landscape her backyard so that her medical equipment could travel to the backyard safely and have a really visual environment for her with butterflies hanging from the trees and fairy lights from the trees that we were able to plant. And so her family could spend a lot more quality time outside. So just seeing some of those experiences come to life has been really, really special. One of my favorite Wish Kid stories is a Wish Kid named Tristan, his wish was to swim with sharks. And when our wish granter was meeting with him, his mom was nearby. He's 6 or 7 years old at the time. And his mom said, "Don't you mean dolphins?" And the wish granter said, "We need to hear from the child. It's the child's wish." And he said, "No, sharks." So we made his wish of swimming with the sharks possible in Florida. And the pictures from that wish are just priceless because his 2 sisters and mom went with them, and he's all happy in the pictures and they look petrified. So it's just hilarious because he's having so much joy and, getting his true wish. So
if I was a parent standing there, I'm like, sharks.
Yeah.
Like, all right, sounds good. Yeah.
And there's some great celebrity wishes. Gordon Ramsay is really generous with our wish kids. Our wish kid, Sebastian, he was just in our office last week, dropping off some treats for us. He got to meet Tom Cruise at the Mission Impossible 2 premiere in New York recently, when that film came out not too long ago. And his wish experience was incredible. And he shared with me that Tom Cruise told him when he turns 18, he's going to take him skydiving. And I said, we are not responsible for that. But he's like, you can make him hold this promise, right? And I'm like, I'm sure we can try.
It's an intimidating person.
But they're very generous.
He does all his own stunts too, I think. So
yeah, exactly.
Perfect guy to go with.
That's the person to go with.
Love it. Yeah, those are some fun ones. Those are definitely some
great stories. But there's so many that I'm not even thinking of because we have so many different types of wishes.
Yeah, and I love the pay it forward concept. I like how so many of the individuals that you help, that you grant the wish for, then they come back and volunteer, then they participate, and then they have a way of paying it forward, whether it's helping another individual or being a mentor or even going on and doing bigger, big and great things in the world. Like, even being a pro bono attorney. I mean, that's phenomenal that somebody would go through with that. I mean, that's awesome. Taking that charitable work and then continuing to pay that forward. So on that topic, I mean, what is the, you mentioned a couple of those, but what is the range of wishes that you receive? Because I have to imagine there's a scale and it's everything from I want to ride a tractor to name X, I want to go, scale a volcano. What is the volume in that scale look like when it comes to large and small and that range of wishes you receive?
It's a pretty wide range because the wish intent of the children, is so pure at their heart of what their true wish is. One little girl wished to meet and ride a unicorn. And it wasn't a terribly expensive wish, but it was a very complex wish because you have to find the right color horse. And then you have to have the owner be okay with this experience happening and putting sparkles and rainbow, crowns on their horse and making sure the horse is safe for the little girl to ride. But, turning that horse into a unicorn for a 4-year-old girl is pretty magical. And so that's a simple cost-wise, but complex. On the other scale, international travel, Super Bowl wishes, World Cup wishes, those are extremely expensive for us. And we don't want to limit a child's dreams by saying, well, we can't do that because it's too expensive. So we have to raise a lot of money because the wish experience isn't just for the child, it's for the whole family. So if it's a cruise, those can be very expensive. And other Wish alumni I've met, these trips are truly life-changing for them. I've met people who just said it was a healing time for their family. I've met siblings of Wish kids who unfortunately did pass away, who said it was a life-changing trip for them. That opportunity to travel really influenced their future path and very happy memories for them. Disneyland is always a really special Wish. That's, our hometown Disney park here in Orange County in the Inland Empire. And the way that the kids get to experience Disneyland with their family is something just unbelievable. When we do the Wish reveal, which is part of the Wish process, once we have the Wish identified and scheduled, we meet with the child, or the Wish grant or volunteer meets with the child and does a Wish reveal. And recently for a Disneyland Wish, the mom said, "You mean I get to stay in a hotel for 5 nights and everything is paid for and I don't have to cook and my whole family gets to go?" It was just like, I think seeing the kid's face and how happy his mom was bigger than going to Disneyland for the child almost.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's probably, it's a stressful situation a lot of the time too. So, I mean, giving the whole family that experience is phenomenal that you do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes and a lot that to make all this happen that makes you a special organization. And I have to imagine there's levels of partnerships that play into this and levels of theatrical behind the scenes. Like you said, like how do we make a unicorn mythical creature exist? I mean, those are real things. How do you what is your process for going about that? How do you go about that? Because like I said, I imagine it is a big process.
Yeah, so we have an amazing team here at our local chapter as well as nationally that are all interplaying in some capacity depending on the type of wish. But what we really do is rely a lot on our partners. Disney Corporation is the single largest wish grantor in all of Make-A-Wish since our history. They granted the most wishes, whether it's Disneyland, Disney World, Alani, ESPN, Disney Cruise Line, celebrity wishes they can play a big role in. And they were there at day one when we were officially formed as an organization, and they're with us today. So they are truly an incredible partner for Make-A-Wish. In addition to that, we have all of the different sports franchises who are incredible partners. So many kids have a wish to meet an NFL player or a basketball star or a baseball player. I was with our Wish kid, Romeo, a Wish alum, on Saturday. He's 7 years old. His wish was to meet the Dallas Cowboys, and he is now a Wish ambassador for us. And we had an opportunity to work with an organization here who was doing a flag football tournament with NFL stars, and he was fist bumping him in the tunnel, So, these Wish experiences can go on as another special experience for kids who become our Wish ambassadors too, to have kind of little add-ons. We have another Wish child who is going to be with me tomorrow on a news broadcast, and her wish was to meet the cast of her favorite show. And the network that we're doing the news broadcast on is right across the street from this other network, and they've invited her for a VIP tour again to kind of reconnect with the people she met on her wish. So sometimes there's these fun little bonuses. The airlines are also huge partners. United, Delta, Alaska, Southwest, American, they are huge partners to us because they encourage their flyers to donate unused airline miles to Make-A-Wish. And when you donate air miles to Make-A-Wish, they no longer expire. They stay in our mileage bank in perpetuity. So anybody out there listening, if you have miles that you're not going to use that are going to expire, you can go on the Make-A-Wish website and donate your miles, and they get allocated across the country to chapters that need them. So that is a really wonderful resource. And every airline makes it special for the Wish kids as they're gailing on their travel wish or going to, travel to Disneyland or Disney World. They always have a special announcement or, get to visit the cockpit or get to go to the front of the boarding line. I was at a Wish send-off not too long ago, and the airline had bubble machines and signs and pom-poms as the child was getting on the plane. I'm like, this is great.
I love that companies do that too, and you don't hear about it that much publicly. Like, I mean, you know, and I can't imagine like if you're also just around that, it's got to be such a special, you know, even if you're not a participant, you're just in the airport and you see this happen. I mean, it's awesome that you get to experience that and see the joy that it creates. But it's incredible that there are so many companies that participate that help make that happen. And yeah, I never knew about the airline miles, so I think that also is a really easy thing to do, and certainly something that goes a very, very long way to both, you know, the individual and their family in granting that wish. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's important for people to know, and I think it's great that there's an avenue to be able to donate that, because obviously, you know, I think a lot of people's airline miles end up going either unused or, you know, it's certainly a tangible benefit that people can provide that makes someone else happy. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's, you know, you end up on a flight that's not your normal airline that you're banking points for, and you say, oh, I have X amount of this airline miles, but I don't have enough to get a ticket or get an upgrade. Those are perfect to donate to Make-A-Wish, because then you've done something good with them and you don't have to worry about, you know, them not being used. And we also have amazing local partners. You know, our chapter covers Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside County. That's a very large population. And there are amazing local corporations, foundations, volunteers who really are the backbone of every single Make-A-Wish chapter across the country. We could not do what we do without all of the local support that we get, whether it be from local landscape companies or local corporations or local restaurants, all of the people who not only make the Wish experience special, but also help us to raise money. So each Make-A-Wish chapter is very grateful for all of the local support and national partners that we get support from locally, like Subaru and Dave & Buster's. You know, the list kind of goes on, but those corporate partners are huge for us.
Love it. Love every minute of that. With respect to wishes themselves, I mean, what are some of the misconceptions you hear about wishes or about just the concept of a wish in general?
So one of the there's several misconceptions, so I'll go over a couple. But one of the misconceptions is that everything's donated for wishes, that they happen for free because it's such a great thing. And wouldn't everybody just want to donate the services or the airfare, hotel stay, or whatever it might be for free? And unfortunately, that is not the case. Things aren't free. Our average wish cost for our chapter is about $10,000. Depending on the wish. Some go upwards to $25,000 and some are more economical, like a shopping spree. The amount that the child has is dependent on their age range. So those can be less expensive. You know, if it's a 4-year-old, they're not going to have a $5,000 budget. If they're a 17-year-old, you know, they might, depending on the gaming system and the, you know, all the other things that they like to get on the shopping spree. And shopping spree wishes are nice for kids who can't travel and can't go anywhere, and they want to deck out their room to make it, you know, their sanctuary. They do a lot of that with what they're able to do with the shopping spree because they can choose their things online and then we deliver it. And so that's one misconception, is that wishes don't cost money. They definitely do cost money. Another misconception, and as I'm out in the community, I find this to be the biggest misconception, is that it's a last wish, that every child we grant a wish for is terminal. And while unfortunately some of the kids are terminal, we, in our chapter at any given time, you know, we grant about 300 local wishes a year. I'm not including Disneyland from all over the country that we also grant, which is about 900 more wishes. But at any given time, out of those 300 wishes, probably within a month, we have 6 to 10 rush wishes that we're working on that really have kind of a month to 2 month window where that wish needs to be granted. And so that's really challenging, but 70% of our wish kids go on to adulthood. The wish is granted during their treatment or right after treatment to give them that hope and strength. And it really is that catalyst for them to go on and be strong, be inspired, and have something that they'll treasure the rest of their life that was part of their journey, that's a happy memory versus thinking about all of the treatments and doctor visits and things that they went through. So the biggest misconception is that it's a last wish, but it truly is a lasting wish. And it makes so much sense in the work that we do that it does have this ongoing effect in people's lives. I met someone recently who just talked about how it really gave their family so much hope and strength during such a difficult time. And that's really the beauty of Make-A-Wish. And, you know, it's easy to get teary and talk about these amazing stories. And when you truly think about it, it's the happiest thing that there could be to be able to grant a wish, because it does create such beautiful memories. So it's a joyful experience no matter what. And the majority of our wish kids carry that joy through their whole life.
Definitely. And I think it's important. I appreciate you sharing that. Sometimes a difficult thing to talk about, but certainly important, the work that you do from that perspective. If you were to look at, obviously, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things which I found intriguing when it comes to the effect that it has on individuals, whether it's their emotional state, physical state, future state. You know, is there any data out there that suggests the impact that you have?
Yes, we did a study before I came to Make-A-Wish. I think it was probably 2020, right around that time. The results came out, and they interviewed physicians and really talked with them about what is the impact of a wish. And they cited that it helps the children comply with treatment. It helps with their mental health because they have something positive to think about, positively contributes to their mental health, not only for the child, but also the parents and the family overall. They really cited the fact that the compliance coupled with the outlook of something positive to look forward to is really part of their healing journey.
It's a lot. There are a lot of positive benefits. And most of all, without even, I think without even doing a study, you can probably say that, a joyful event, hope, providing someone that experience, providing somebody that time with their family, whether you can measure it or not, has a very significant impact. I know even personally, like when you have something to look forward to in general, it's a very positive thing on an individual, and kind of gives you that extra motivation to carry on. And sometimes that's what makes all the difference. So it's probably understated in the world how impactful it is, in the sense of what you can actually measure. But also, you, even with all the stories that you shared already, and I'm sure you have 1,000,001 more of, what was that impact like after? And you can tell it probably had to change that individual's life, provided them hope, provided them a lot of joy that they can then carry on forward with. So I can imagine that's a pretty common thing to occur.
Yeah. One story that I heard recently, it wasn't one of our Wish kids, but it was someone who I met at a Make-A-Wish America meeting, was sharing how, she'd been a tennis player. She was 15 years old, just kind of in that prime of life, really high level tennis player, loving life. And she was diagnosed with leukemia. And between how it changed her physically and the mental strain it had for her, feeling like she did this to her family, that her family dynamic had completely changed. She had just given up hope to fight. Like it would be easier if I was gone. And she said, when she tells the story, she says, they must have been bugging my hospital room because the next moment Make-A-Wish came in and talked to her about what her true wish was. And her true wish was to meet Roger Federer. And so they arranged for her, she was able to get stronger, that, if you get stronger, you're going to go to Wimbledon and meet Roger Federer. And this is your wish. And she's like, well, I'm just going to do this for my family because they would really love to go to Europe. And, I'm still, kind of like it'd be easier if I was gone. And she said, as it got closer and I got stronger, I was excited for the wish and I was wanting to fight. And she had her wish come true of meeting Roger Federer at Wimbledon. And when she shares the story, she says Make-A-Wish saved her life. So you can't get better than that.
No, you can't. No. No, I mean, that's an incredible story that I wish, we could say 15 times over, and it has happened.
Exactly.
That's something I want to broadcast to the world of, like, how do you generate hope for somebody? And then as part of the process they go through for you to grant a wish and for them to actually get there, it creates for them that hope. And it's, you don't hear these things publicly. I could probably sit here for hours and listen to these stories, and it would just, I'll share them as tidbits of tips of like listen to the resilience of some people out there, and then listen to the great work that Make-A-Wish is doing to help create that resilience or help give the platform for the individuals to be resilient. Then, they obviously do their work to get there. But it's incredible to hear. I love hearing these. So you talked a little bit before about the family experience. You mentioned a couple examples, but how do you make that experience for the family special? What is the process to do that?
So we make sure that all siblings get to go on the trip, because you think about, or be part of the experience, because when you think about it, so much attention is devoted to what's going on with the child battling a critical illness and how other siblings might feel. And so some examples of that, we had a wish last summer for a teenager who wanted to be a farmer. Just like her wish was to be with farm animals and do that whole thing. And she had a younger brother and has a younger brother and an older sister. We got them all outfitted with boots from Boot Barn and flannel shirts, and got them all dressed up all the same. They were all part of the wish experience, together as, a family. And the mom was there as well. And they got to have an incredible day all together. We do these amazing wishes with Disney and their group wishes. And so at Disney World, they do a princess ball, and the siblings get to be dressed up as prince or princesses as part of the ball as well. They're part of the experience. We had an amazing Star Wars wish year ago at Disneyland, and all of the kids got to go on the scavenger hunt and get the stormtrooper experience and build a droid and get the robe and do all the things. So it wasn't something where you couldn't really tell who the wish kid was and who the siblings were, because they all had a very equal experience, which was really wonderful. And so we really try to make sure that it is something where the attention is on the experience and the child's true wish. I mean, sometimes it is a singular wish where, the 4-year-old wants to ride a unicorn, and, maybe, the parents don't do that, but they're part of the experience regardless.
Yeah, I can imagine you get all different walks of life of individuals that will participate and will not participate. But if I went to something Star Wars related, I would definitely I'd dress up. I would definitely dress up with my kids. So obviously there's a lot that you do. As you mentioned before, some of these things are donated. Some of what you do has a real cost tag to it. Obviously, I imagine there's a large group of individuals that are looking to have a wish granted. How do you as Make-A-Wish increase the number of wishes that you grant?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because there are a couple of ways. We recently, from Make-A-Wish America, received data on the incidence and prevalence of all of the conditions that qualify for a wish. And for our chapter specifically in our territory, for every one wish we grant, there are 2 eligible kids out there waiting. And so not only do we want to find all of those kids and get them into our pipeline of wishes so we can grant their wishes, we also need to aggressively fundraise to be able to pay for those wishes. So, kind of achieving that balance of sustainability to be able to really proactively recruit more children who are eligible for wishes to be true to our vision of granting the wish of every eligible child is something that everyone on our team here in the Orange County Inland Empire chapter feels strongly about. But it's also something that my colleagues and our volunteers and our national team and our national board are extremely passionate about. Is how do we reach as many eligible children as possible? So that relies on referrals for medical professionals. It relies on huge amount of dollars flowing to all of the local chapters to be able to say, yes, we have the money to grant these wishes. We don't want to talk to a child about their wish and not be able to grant it for 2 years or ever because of funds, so they really go hand in hand of having the referrals for children come into each local chapter and having the funds available to be able to grant those wishes. We have the ability through our amazing staff and volunteers to be resourced with manpower, which still costs money. I mean, if we had double the amount of wishes, we would need to increase the size of our team, but it really goes hand in hand with wanting to make sure that we have the right amount of funds to grant all of the eligible wishes.
Yeah, a lot goes into it. So yeah, definitely the fundraising is an important component. I mentioned the volunteers is an important component too, and just the organizations that participate. You mentioned a lot of it during this episode, but yeah, there's a significant amount of probably intangible that goes into making a wish happen too, outside of just the finances, although that's an important part of making it happen.
Yeah, volunteers are a huge component of what we do. Our chapter has almost 400 volunteers for our local area. Many of those are wish granters. Many of those are people who do fundraisers for us. Many of those are companies that donate in kind services to us. We couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, no doubt. If somebody wanted to donate, get involved, be active with Make-A-Wish, refer an individual that they think, what would be the best avenue for someone to go about doing that?
For local people in our community, contacting your local chapter directly is always the best because you'll get right to the right person. They'll let you know exactly how you can help. So looking up your local Make-A-Wish chapter in your community. For us, we are in Orange County and serving the Inland Empire. So our website is ocie.wish.org. And you can Google any Make-A-Wish chapter. If you say Make-A-Wish Georgia or Make-A-Wish in California, we have like 6 chapters. So our names are a little more specific, but you can go on the Make-A-Wish America website and click on find your local chapter, and there'll be a page of all the staff and who to reach out to get more information.
Love it. Yeah. So, we talked about a lot today. You shared a lot of information. The thing that I walked away from today with is just the impact that Make-A-Wish has, the level of care that goes into making a wish happen, the amount of time, effort, and resources that go into just creating an experience for an individual that otherwise wouldn't have that experience. And also the fact that a lot of the experiences that you do create have more than just a one-time impact and actually do save an individual's life and actually do have that lasting, long-term, resilient impact that changes somebody's life. And I think that's wonderful to hear. And I appreciate the great work that you do, that your organization does, and Make-A-Wish as a whole does, because it's certainly a breath of fresh air in today's world where all we hear is negative news on the news. And I always love hearing positive stories and ways that people really help people. And your organization obviously is one of those on the ground organizations that is truly helping individuals and children. So, Anne, I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you dedicating time on our show today, sharing more information about it. And also, for our listeners out there, I hope you have further questions. Obviously, as Anne said, reach out to your local chapter. Certainly is an important thing to do and help the organization out. But Anne, I really appreciate you spending your time on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Ton of fun. And Warriors, thank you for listening. Subscribe and meet us right back here for another episode of With Them Civic Warriors. I hope everyone has a great day. Bye, everybody.